So the next step in transformations is going to be reflections. Now with reflections, we primarily reflect over a line, and for the most part for us, it's the x-axis or the y-axis. If you're asked to reflect over another line, you're just going to draw it in. We haven't done graphing yet though, so there's not going to be a lot of that. Okay, so basically what happens is, if you are reflecting across the x-axis, that means we are looking right here at the x-axis. Okay, and you are reflecting over it. So that would be this reflection right here. So you take the original points and you can just count down to the x-axis and count the same amount of spaces over it. So you count 1, 2. So you'd have to go 1, 2 to get to the new point. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it gets you to the point where you want to be. So, but if you look at the original points in comparison to the reflected points, we had -4, 2, -4, -2. Okay, this was a -4 and this was a -4. Here, -4, 5, -4, -5. -1, 2, -1, -2. So if you notice, these x's aren't changing. Okay, those are staying the same. So x stays the same. And the y's all changed, okay, but they just became the opposites of the other y's. So y changed to the opposite. Okay, and so this is over the x-axis. So x-axis, x stays. So for your x-axis, basic rules. X stays the same, y changes to the opposite. So you don't even have to actually draw it to be able to figure this out. If it's drawn, it's really easy to just count. If it's not drawn, you can just follow these rules. Okay, so now the y is similar. Okay, this time we're looking at the y-axis, so we're looking at our vertical axis right here. Okay, so when you reflect it across the y-axis, if you look at the picture, you can do the exact same thing we just did. You can count. So it's 1, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just count to the line and then over the line. And that works no matter what line you have, whether it's x-axis, y-axis, or some other random line. All right, so now if we look at the points, we had -4, 2, 4, 2. Okay, so this time these two stayed the same. And be -4, 5, 4, 5. The 5 stayed the same. -1, 2, 1, 2. So the 2 stayed the same. Okay, so our y's stayed the same. We reflected over the y-axis, and our y stayed the same. Okay, so our y is going to stay, and our x's change to the opposite. Okay. Now this is only when you're reflecting over the y-axis. If you're reflecting over any other line, you're just going to do the counting thing. So y-axis, x-axis. So x-axis has rules, x stays, y changes. Y-axis has rules, x changes, y stays. But you can always just do the counting thing. All right, so we are going to look at a problem. Okay, if you didn't get that, rewind and look at it again. Let's look at this problem. All right, so in the first part, it wants us to reflect across the x-axis. Okay, so we don't have the coordinates, so we're not going to follow the rule. Well, we actually do need to write the coordinates after, but because we don't have the original coordinates, we don't need to worry about that. We're just going to count. Okay, so remember we're looking at the x-axis, so it's this axis. So we're just going to do our counting. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2. And remember, you have to use that little prime symbol that tells you that it's not the original. Got to do that still. B, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it helps you with seeing the lines, go ahead and draw on the grid lines through the shape. I know they're not there, but if it helps, go ahead and do it. And then, oh, forgot to label, sorry. B prime, C prime, D prime, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, connect the dots, and your figure is reflected over the x-axis. So now we do need to write the coordinates for the new one. So A prime was at 1, negative 2. B prime is at 2, negative 4. Lines up with the 2 on the x-axis, lines up with the negative 4 on the y-axis. C is at 4, negative 4. Remember, it's xy. And D is at 5, negative 2. Negative 2. Okay? So our figure is reflected across the x-axis just by counting, and then we wrote our coordinates. Okay? So in the second one, it says reflect the figure across the y-axis. So we're going to be reflecting across here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to count, just because it's the easiest thing to do. 1, 1, A prime. Actually, this is going to be a double prime because we have a second reflection of the same figure. So we're going to put 2 little prime marks, 2 prime marks. All right, B, 1, 2, 1, 2. C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and I forgot double primes. Double prime. Okay. So connect our dots. And that is our reflection over the y-axis. So we're going to write the points for it. All right, so A was at negative 1, 2. B is at negative 2, 4. Oh, negative 2. All right, C is at negative 4, 4. And D is at negative 5, 2. Okay, so a couple questions at the bottom. Just ask, at your reflection figure ABCD across the x-axis, what quadrant did the figure end up in? And at your reflection figure ABCD across the y-axis, what quadrant did the figure end up in? Okay, so if we remember that the quadrants should be labeled starting in the upper right corner and then going counterclockwise. So against the clock, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we started in 1, and across the x-axis we ended up in quadrant 4. And when we started in quadrant 1 and reflected across the y-axis, we ended up in quadrant 2. Okay, so remember we just counted and then we wrote our coordinates because we already had the pictures. If we didn't already have the pictures, we would just follow the rules. Okay, these are helpful when you're just given sets of coordinates. All right, so what you're gonna do is the back of this paper, it's a separate sheet of paper for me, but do the back of this paper, go ahead and work through these. It's gonna take you a few minutes. Make sure that you are going slow and not making little mistakes, okay? Okay, so here's the answers to this sheet, and I'm sure you guys all did fine with this. I added a little bit of detail here just to show you exactly what I did. I just counted down 1 and then 1 past the line of reflection, counted down 3 to the line of reflection, 3 past it. Same thing here, 2 over to the line of reflection and 2 past it, 4 over to the line of reflection and 4 past it. So we ended up with the points 2, 3, and 4, 1. Negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, negative 4. Okay. Same thing here. Just counted and recorded my points. So go ahead and check that. And I'm wondering if you're noticing something about the points across the y and across the x, the final points. Okay. Pause it if you need to check. Here's the last one. Okay, you should end up like this. And, see what you're noticing about these points. Okay, so hopefully that was pretty clear for you guys. It wasn't meant to be, anything really tricky for you. So what you're gonna do, because I do want you to practice the actual rules of this, remember these rules that are right here, you are going to complete this sheet on reflections. So this one just gives you the coordinates and you are going to apply the rules. So, and they say the rules stated just a little bit differently up here than what we wrote down. So I would highly suggest you write down this stuff right here and then go ahead and do this sheet that's got all of these, okay? And then when you are done with that, there is a sheet that combines the last two things the two things we've done so far. So it's going to combine reflections and translations. So you're going to have to do two things. Okay, so like this first one says to reflect the quadrilateral ABCD across the y-axis and record the new points, and then across the x-axis, and then it tells you to translate. So you're doing a whole bunch of things, and you're going to see what happens with that. Okay, and there is just one side to that. Okay?